Well, you know, it's an important issue for us. We have approximately, at last count, this is the last year, we're doing a current count for this year, but last year we had identified about 1,400 homeless folks, half of whom were families, and another 600 to 700 that were in such dire straits that they could become homeless at any point. Now, those are those folks that we've identified. There are far more, in my judgment, because you can't identify all of the homeless people. We do a rough count and get as good a number as possible. I suspect there might be twice that many. Could be maybe 3,000 or 4,000. And so it is a serious problem, and it has manifested itself in a number of different ways. As an individual, I've seen it up close and personal. I'm a member of a church, Urban Grace, where every Sunday we provide breakfast for homeless folks, and we have somewhere between 200 to 300 people come to our church in the morning, and we provide a healthy breakfast for them, and we're seeing more and more families, I might note. Also, some years back, there used to be a Friday night feed on Pacific Avenue in downtown, and it was rather a remarkable event where all of a sudden, at a particular time, hundreds of people would show up, and people would show up with food and clothing and things, that soap and toothpaste and so on, for those people who are in need. And it would almost be a religious experience. In fact, there were some church people involved, and my spouse and I, on a number of occasions, would participate in that, so that we would see those people who are struggling, those people who are homeless, up close and personal. And you can't generalize. There are families. There are those that are struggling with addictions, or they have other disabilities that they're struggling with that have put them in this particular circumstance. And so, I've had a chance to see it up close and personal, and it's pretty heart-rendering when you see it. Over the years, it's kind of manifested itself in encampments that we've seen. And I can talk. And you may have a question about that, so I can maybe stop at that point, and I could talk about that issue if you like. But I'll stop. Sure, sure. This was and this is something we're trying to deal with, and I think we're trying to deal in a proactive way. In the past, the city's response has been essentially reactive. And what I mean by that is that these encampments would surface, and then people living in the area would complain, or businesses would complain, or sometimes these encampments would be close to schools, and there would be complaints that would come to us. And our response would be to send in the police, generally, or others, police or other city employees, to clean up the encampments, essentially pick up all of what was there. And the folks then would leave and move to some other location, and then would return, and we would hear the same complaints, and we'd have the same response, and that essentially is reactive. So we really weren't dealing with the problem, or developing a response, a proactive response to deal with the problem. And I'm pleased to say, over the past several years, after a lot of study and examination of best practices, we're trying to take a proactive approach toward that particular issue of dealing with the chronic homeless who are in situations in which they can be victimized and are in very unhealthy circumstances. And so it's not just the question of complaints from, let's say, employees who seem that are threatened by these folks. Although there's no record of anyone being attacked or assaulted that I know of by the folks, but just to see them creates unease. And so the response would be as I would suggest. So there was a considerable study on the part of the city as to what we might do proactively. I mean, can we design a program that would lead to the re-entering into the mainstream of these folks who are really distressed? And it's not an easy problem to solve because each of these individuals have a whole set of issues that they're struggling with. So you can't design a model or a program to treat one size fits all. You have to design a program that's individually focused to each person and their particular issues and problems. And that's what we're trying to do.
How now? How has your constituents and colleagues on the city council embraced your headship on this task?
Embrace my what?
Your headship on this task.
Oh, leadership?
Yes, your leadership.
I think the council as a whole is committed to it. We have kind of a variety of opinions. In fact, two of the real leaders on this effort. One is I would characterize as a fairly conservative Republican, and the other I would characterize as a pretty progressive Democrat. And I'm talking about Julie Anderson and Mike Lonergan, both of whom have kind of taken the lead on addressing this issue. And so I would characterize the council as being committed as a group, all 9 of us, to making this work. And the city has essentially committed resources to making this work, and we've gone to the legislature requesting additional support for our efforts. We've also gone to the private sector as well, and they are partnering with us in this effort to make this model of reintegration into the mainstream work.